Welcome to Airlines 101 with Laura, and today I am sitting down with Jesse Tart, who is a maintenance supervisor for a fairly large size regional airline in the United States, and I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about what that looks like on the day-to-day operations, but thanks for being here,
of course,
Jesse. And maybe first you can tell a little bit about, what is the typical night on the job?
Yeah. So I work nights. So usually my night starts at 8 p.m. goes to 8 a.m. So I do 12-hour shifts as a supervisor, and I have anywhere, depends on the day of the week, but I have anywhere from 15 to 30 mechanics that I oversee on any given night. And we have anywhere from 4 to 7 or 8 aircraft that we have overnight as well.
Okay.
So I oversee the whole night crew. We do anything from oil change up to engine change.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Good vast variety.
And sometimes airplanes come in and you don't really know. It's like troubleshooting.
Yep. We get a lot of pilot reports, PIREPs, and that will be a lot of troubleshooting.
Okay.
It'll just be this ICAS message, and then you go from there.
Okay. And now, if I think I got this right, you moved from flying into maintenance.
So I flew.
Tell us about that.
So yeah,
you don't really hear about this, and I didn't put this in the questions I sent you, but I want to hear about it.
So I started 2019 working for the airline as a pilot, and I flew for 2 years. Great experience. Flew as first officer for those 2 years, and that was through COVID actually. So did a lot of standby sitting,
okay.
but yeah, I did about 600 hours in the jet, and then decided just for family reasons and family life I wanted to switch over to maintenance. I got both while I was here at Laterno, so I switched over to a maintenance position, worked as a mechanic for 6 months, and then shortly after they asked me if I wanted to step up to a supervisor.
Okay.
And a lot of that had to do with the fact that I had flown, and they thought that experience was valuable that none of the other supervisors had.
Okay. Yeah, it's certainly unique.
Yep.
I haven't heard of very many pilots moving into the maintenance.
I get that question a lot
You
at
do,
work.
yeah. So now you had. I really like your story because you've had two different aspects of the industry that you've worked in. But as working in the industry right now, you're in hangar shop floor and all this stuff in this environment. How do you go about living out your faith on a daily or nightly basis?
So a lot of it is, a lot of it to me has always been your character. So how do you present yourself, especially when things are stressful, or especially when things either it's against regulations, it's against company policy, things of that nature. Do I let it slide? Do I let things get swept under the rug? People are always watching that, especially as a supervisor. The guys are watching what I do. So I think that's one way that I can give a reason. It kind of makes me think of the verse that Paul says, to always be ready to give a reason for the hope that you have. Always be ready to give a reason for why I live my life the way that I do.
Okay.
So, like I said, whether that's just maintenance documentation and, when the FAA shows up, making sure that I'm being honest with my management higher than me.
Yeah.
So I think that's, the base level. But I think a lot of it also has to just do with building relationships with the guys.
Okay.
And being willing to talk and willing to slow down if need be.
Yeah. So are you mostly in an office when they're out there working, or are you out on the floor?
Both. So
Wow. Okay.
I have an office in the hangar, but it's a big window out overlooking the hangar, so the guys are always in and out of the office.
Okay.
But I do every hour or so I'm walking around and actually seeing how the night's progressing. So I know the guys. I'm with them on an hourly basis.
Have you found the work environment at all to be hostile to Christianity that you're in, or what's your perspective on that?
No, I don't think haven't found it to be hostile. I think it's kind of like anything, anywhere you work, you just have to. Some people are willing to talk about it, some people aren't. I haven't, had a whole lot of hostility, but I find it actually easier in maintenance to talk to the guys rather than flight.
Okay.
And the reason being is you've built a relationship with the guys.
Oh yeah.
And
the flight
you may have,
a different person all the time, right?
And I've had 3-4 crews in one day, depending on if it's a bad weather day and you keep getting swapped out
between different captains.
So you may have anywhere from 4 days or 3 hours to be with the person, versus I work with the same guys
every night.
Every night.
Or they rotate. I guess you say you have three 12-hour shifts.
No, I do.
week, or-
I alternate weeks, 4 days
Okay.
and 3 days.
Okay.
So,
So you get the same kind of
yep.
crew of people.
And I work enough overtime and all that I see all the other shifts as well.
Okay.
So I know them all on
like
a
building
on
that
a
relationship.
personal basis by name, and that goes a long ways.
So, have you ever actually been able to relate to somebody and share your faith
Yep.
on the job? Or
I've been able to a couple times. Actually talking about the gospel, sharing the gospel. I got to recently with a guy, another supervisor, because we have 3 supervisor positions that are at the airport at any given time. We have our tower, which is the person who is receiving calls from the pilots
Okay.
and helping work through maintenance issues. And they're actually up with the ramp controllers and things of that nature. So I got to work that position and get training in it when I started.
And this is at the terminal.
Yes. This
Not
is
like
the
in
terminal.
your hangar.
Correct.
Yes, there's somebody up there.
It's
overseeing
on
all
the top
gates.
of, yep.
Yeah,
in
yeah,
in
okay,
Dallas, it's up
right.
on top of the A terminal.
Okay.
So, and then, so we have tower supervisor, we have a terminal supervisor for, we had 2 terminals that we work out of, so we had 2 terminal supervisors and then the hangar.
Okay.
So, one night, one of those guys came over from the tower and was just kind of sharing some stuff about his family. It was late in the evening, we're sitting there chatting, and, just through building that relationship, he started opening up about how he grew up, in the Mormon faith and how he left that when he was a teenager, and just kind of him and his wife have been trying to decide if they wanted to get back into, some type of faith-based, a religion, and he was asking me what me and my wife, how we grew up, how did we go to any church. So I got to share with him the idea, because he was telling me a lot about how restrictive it was on, you shouldn't even drink caffeine, all these rules-based.
They do have a lot of rules.
And so it was neat getting to share with him, my view on Christ. It's not about rules, it's about a relationship and just sharing the gospel about, how none of us are good enough, but it's not about us keeping a set of rules.
That's awesome that he came to you,
Yeah.
right? And obviously that's because he knows who
Yep.
you are, and it's from that relationship building. So I have another question. I feel bad. I keep going off script. So I'm just curious. In your hangar, do you have any females working?
We have. I was thinking about the other day. We have two. We have 2 female mechanics.
Okay.
My boss is a female. She was former supervisor. Now she's up. We call it maintenance operations director, MOD.
Okay.
So she's above me, but she's my direct boss. And then a lot of our parts handlers, female, parts. So there's a whole mix, but there's not a huge amount of mechanics. But I think 2 that I know of.
Okay. So here's the question that I've heard from some of our students even recently. Like, is it an environment where you think that women can be okay, or are they going to be, harassed
No, I
by the
haven't.
mechanics?
I haven't had any. I haven't personally interacted or had interactions where I've had to deal with people being harassed, thankfully. So it's been very, very accepting. Personally, I think that the night crew is much more fun because they're a lot more younger guys
Okay.
than the day crew.
Okay.
Because it's all seniority based in the airline. So
Okay.
a lot of the older
The young
guys have
people
been
have
here.
to work at night.
Yep. So all the young people were working at night, and also do the day shift only may have 4 guys in the hangar. I get 30 guys at night, so it's a much bigger, younger group. And I think just in general, they usually have a pretty good attitude. Everyone seems to have a lot of fun working together.
Okay, cool. I mean, even just as early as a little as a couple 20 years ago, when my husband started at a different regional, he was like, "Well, if women had to work here, it would be horrible." He wouldn't be fine with it, but he was like, "The environment is just really toxic to making fun of women and demeaning women."
Yeah, I haven't thankfully experienced.
I'm really
that.
glad to hear that. That's really cool. So that to me shows a big turnaround in the last 20 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Good. So last question. What advice would you give to somebody who's coming out of Laterno and going into the airlines? Whatever piece of advice.
Kind of like we talked about earlier, just spend time building a relationship. Being in school here, and we all have dreams of flying forever or this or that. Be willing to don't make aviation your whole your foundation. That needs to be Christ, and if that needs to change, like I did, switch into maintenance, or if that needs to go somewhere else, that's okay. Don't have the mindset that it can never change, and then just be willing to, like I said, just talk with people, build a relationship, I think that that's the best way that you can share your faith, and because at the end of the day, that's really what matters is the people that we're working with. So being able to have that relationship and being open so that they feel comfortable coming to you.
So, and I'm just curious again. So even though now you have to work nights, do you really still feel it's a better work schedule?
Yeah, I do.
Because
I have a schedule as versus flying. Yes, you may have a schedule, but weather changes that. A lot of things change. Commuting changes that. So I have a set schedule. I'm off at a certain time every day, and then I at least get to be home, see family at least once a day.
Okay.
That may be morning or evening. Me and my wife overlap by 5-6 hours, but at least I'm home every day. And if something goes wrong, I'm able to, I'm within the same city. So which is.
And can you get more plugged in with the church?
Yeah.
And that kind of
That's when I was flying, especially since I was junior during COVID. I think I had like one Sunday or 2 Sundays off in like 2 years. Oh. So I'm at least now I get off Sunday morning at it's like 7 or 8 a.m. Depending on how busy it is that night. So I always just go to church and I'll go home and rest, and then I'm off for a couple days after that. But at least I'm able to go to church every week with current schedule, which is nice.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here and answering all my crazy questions that went off script. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Thank you.